Hello, this is Mark Nelson. What you're about to see is a series of concept drawings and a little demonstration on how I build my concept drawings for my comic book Thunder Hunters. Hi, Mark Nelson here. Earlier on we were talking about tools and I talked a little bit about line, but let's talk about how we can use our tools and the elements of art to create images. The first thing that we can really think about is the whole characteristic of a line. Now, a line can be very consistent and very even if you draw it like this. A line can also have variation in it, which as you are drawing you can get lighter and darker. So you can see I snapped the point of the lead there, and my old drawing teacher said, if I don't hear enough snapping of leads, you guys aren't using your line variation enough. So here we go. So we can come in, and by pushing this, you can see again how we can get a thick and thin line and how we can use that in relationship to lights and darks. So as a form inserts into another form, or as we start to build and do different kinds of things with that, you can ask yourself, how am I going to use a line to bring this form and bring it in? So I'll push this as a little bit darker. As you come out, you get a little bit lighter and go back into the darkness. We'll come back out for a light, and then as we go into that dark area, you can see that very simply, just by how we push our line and line weight, we can create a feeling for light and dark. So that kind of gives you a little interesting starting point. Now, the thing is that depending on what you draw with, this is a Prismavera thin, these pencils are always going to give you line variations. So they're always going to give you a line that you can push from a light to a dark. So there's the Verathin. This is what I use the most of. It's just a 2H lead in a lead holder. And the nice thing about a lead holder like this is that the lead gets shorter, but your pencil stays the same length. So as we come in here and we think again about this, you can see very simply and very quickly how I can come in and I can create thick and thin lines with this pencil and get this thing moving to really let some of this kind of, thicken up and come into it. So if I want to really get a thicker line, I can do something like that. So your pencil can have a lot of variation, or your pencil can have very little variation depending on what you're trying to do. Now, when you're inking with a micron or a Pitt or a Statler, any one of these sort of what they're now calling technical pens, but they're really more markers, you can see that these are designed to give you a very even, consistent line. Now, if you push down lightly, you can get a little bit of variation, but as you can see with this one, you can see I'm already wearing the point down, and I tend to snap the little tips off. So it's hard to get line variation within that one. That's a micron. This is a Statler, which once again is designed for giving you a more of a consistent, even line. And as you look at that, that's kind of what you're getting. Now, the traditional tool that I'm used to, that I love the most, is the brush. Because the brush is going to give you a line that's going to come down, and if you really want to push that brush, you can really come in and get that fluidity of light to dark. So this is something that really gives you a beautiful movement, and you can also come in and create very fine lines. So with a brush, with just practicing, if I need to come in and I need to do a thick line, I can keep a thick line like this with the brush. I can go a little bit thinner and do this kind of a thing with a brush. So I can create a thinner line, and then I can also create a very fine line with how I make this brush and the tip of that brush move. So the thing is that line is an element that's going to create a lot of movement. It can create texture. It can create a lot of different kinds of things. So if you think about line, with a brush and ink, I can come in, and this is going to give you some of the most flexible kind of lines that you can get. So if you want to play with some different kinds of textures, if you want to play with different surfaces, it's really a beautiful tool. But I can still come in and I can work very lightly with this. And if I need to build up or if I want to hatch, you can see that that brush will give me quite a range of marks and strokes and the whole essence of what we're talking about. Now, the other thing is the crow quill pen. Now, the crow quill pen is very much like the brush. You're going to come in and you're going to have a line that you can push and pull. So this is also a very traditional method, and people use this quite a bit. The Japanese have made it's called the maru point, which is very similar to the crow quill that we're seeing, I'm using here. And, you know, again, it does run out of ink, so you constantly have to dip it, which then brings a whole new series of problems as far as finding a good ink that you like that's going to give you a nice flat rich black and the quality of, you know, darkness that you want. So that's playing with some of that. So you can see I can come in and I can be very light with this also, and I can get quite a range. Now, the one thing that you have to be really worrisome about working with ink like this, and let's find out. See, this is all pretty much dry, but where I just made these, bang. So you have to really become conscious of where you're working with your ink. Whereas you saw the color brush just cleared up so beautifully, so quickly, it dried up. You didn't have to worry about that. But once again, you know, there's all different kinds of, if you're playing with your line, and by going from thick to thin and things like that, you can create values, you can create a lot of different kinds of surfaces with this tool. So again, that's something to really think about and what you might want to do. So that's line, talking a little bit about line and line variation. So let's take line as we've just been talking about it. And if I come in here and I draw a very consistent line around this sort of somewhat rounded object, you're going to see that because the line is the same, you don't get a feeling for any light. So if I come in here and I do that same thing and I start to push that stroke down, so as we go around here, you can see that this stroke would get a little bit darker. You can see you now have a light feeling like it's coming in from there. So as you start thinking now about inking or putting in other kind of strokes, if this is a really smooth object, let's just come in here and do the same kind of thing. So as we come across, the line might be a little bit lighter, and as it goes into that dark, we're going to push down. As we come into there, we're going to push down. As we come in, we're going to push down. And as we're going to come in, we're going to push down. And as we come in, we're going to push down. And as we come in, we're going to push down. So you can already see that it's starting to feel that we're going from a light to a dark. And if I put just lighter lines up here, you can kind of see we're going from a light, we're coming across into the dark. So this is one nice thing that you can do with your line variation, is use that to create lights and darks in a very quick way by thickening and thinning of your line. So as you go into a dark, you push down, and as you come out to a light, you lighten up. Now, on the other hand, if you are to ink with this, and you're going to ink with a very consistent line, so let's do that. That the consistent line, if you think about it as we sort of come through, and let's just do it, would have this kind of a feel. The line would have a very equal flow. This is sort of what a tech pen does. And also, as you can see very simply, your crow quill can do the same thing. You just got to keep that pressure the same, and you're going to come in and you're going to have a whole value of a gray there. But now the difference is you don't really see a feeling of light and dark the way you do here. So that's one thing that line variation will give you. The other thing, and let's just do this, if we come in here, and I have run out of ink, so if we come in here and I draw one object that would look like this, once again, I'm just going to put that line in there a little heavier so that we get the light and dark. And then let's draw this object so it has a different kind of broken edge. And let's see what that's going to do if we come across in here. Now, if this is A and this is B, the thing is what I would ask you very simply is, which one looks harder and which one looks softer. So if I was going to drop one on your head, hopefully you'd want to deal with the soft, fuzzy one. Now, if you think about that, that's because this line has got what? A very soft kind of feel because it's broken up. So if I come in here and even start to put in some more lines, if I keep that same quality of a fuzzier broken line, you're going to see that this thing still keeps that very soft kind of hairball look to it. So if I go into the dark, I can push that down a little bit, and I can come in here and let's push that down a little bit. Let's push some of these down so that the line's a little heavier. And you're going to see that all of a sudden, we've got something that's going to have a very hairy feel. Okay, now on the other hand, keeping like what we're doing here, if this was a hard object, so if I sat down and I said to you, I want you to reach into this box, and in there's three objects. There's a ball of fur, a grape, and a marble. You very interestingly and quickly could tell the difference between a grape, a marble, and a ball of hair. So that if this is a really smooth, hard object, this is what you want to do. You want to keep those lines nice and smooth, and you want to keep that kind of characteristic so that that feels hard and this feels soft. So again, it's a lot of fun pushing different kinds of surfaces as you are drawing different things and asking yourself, what can I do? So let's just come in here once and take one more little quick object. And as you think about it, think about all the different kinds of things that that are happening out in the real world, and what you can add with surface, or what you could add with different kinds of lighting, or what you could add with different characteristics to different surfaces, even on the same object. So if we came in and we just very lightly laid out that kind of sphere, and we come in with a contour, and we push this a little bit so that, you're catching a little bit of the light from this way. That means as we come into this dark, that might go a little bit richer, and you're going to push down. This edge might be defined a little bit more. And as this comes out, all of a sudden, you're getting some very nice kinds of feel for a segmented object. So if this side's a little bit darker, let's push those lines a little heavier. Let's come in here and do that. As it comes out into the light, we won't push as much. So as these lines come out into the light, we're going to get something like that back into the dark. So let's do something here where if we keep this feeling very smooth, we come in and we just take that line work and we push down ever so lightly. That has a sort of a smooth feel to it. Now if I come in and I start to even break up this line or play with a different kind of quality to the line, you can see that whole surface will start to change. So I could actually create a smooth surface there. I could create a little bit of a bump or a wiggle or a different kind of surface in here. If I want this surface to perhaps move a little bit this way, so let's do this, we will do that, but we will push. And let's come in and push a little bit more and push, push, push. Now all of a sudden you can start to see that even as this is the dark side, I can come in and I can really play with some of these lines that might get very dark, and as they start to move towards the light, they might actually start to get a little bit lighter. So you've got an incredible richness that you can now start pushing in your line and your quality to bring out that feeling of light and dark. So a lot of this is going to be how much you want to play with this. How many different kinds of ways do you want to think about what you can draw, how you can draw it to create an interest. If that becomes something that you like, that you enjoy drawing different textures and you enjoy drawing different surfaces, and how that can all add to it. I mean, I haven't even done a little squiggly line, so sometimes you can come in and you can squiggle, or you want to go into a dark, get a little tighter, where you want to go onto a light, you can push that a little bit too. So you can see already this is starting to take on all these different kinds of surfaces and shapes and everything else. And if I want to push a little bit of a core, I could come in here and just by lightly even strengthening those lines up there and doing a little bit of that. You see now I've got a dark core, we got a little bit of reflected light in there. But you can really push things in a lot of different ways. And that's where, you want to sit down and take your time, learn what your pen can do for you, and or your brush, and sit down and really play and try some different kinds of things. Thank you for following me here at Grazing Dinosaur Press on YouTube. I hope you're enjoying the videos as much as I am making them. And please come back next week. There will be more coming up. We're going to hit line again in a different way. And we're going to go through the whole process of building a complete illustration in black and white.